Good afternoon, everyone. Bill Phillips from Prince George Daily News here again with our weekly Talk PG segment. We're joined today losing my grammar here, joined today by Tracy Calogheros of the Exploration Place and Mackenzie Kerr, who is set to graduate from UNBC in this spring. So congratulations. Chuck Nisbett is hoping to join us. He's having a few connection problems apparently, but he should be able to, hopefully he'll be able to log in a minute or two. So we'll get started this week with, oh, here comes Chuck now. So.
Better late than never. Come
in
on,
progress, as they used to say. We'll join regular programming in progress. But news this week on Monday hit the province pretty hard. We hit a 3-week circuit breaker, as Dr. Bonnie Henry called it. We're changing, or we've got a crackdown on the spread of COVID-19, and we've had some horrific numbers over the last couple of weeks. We've had a couple of days over 900 cases in a day. It's been pretty tragic. So this is the third wave, and we've got to try to get a handle on it as we wait for vaccines to roll out, I guess. And I think it's probably part of spring and everything, but everybody's pretty anxious to get out of this. So we're moving along. And of course, Horgan did get himself in a little bit of hot water because he targeted he mentioned the 20 to 39-year-old age group, and he's under fire for possibly being ageist. I don't know if he's being ageist or simply stating a fact. And Mackenzie, you did a TikTok video about this apparently, and we'll go to you first for what your thoughts on the lockdown in general, and Premier Horgan's, is he picking on your generation or just stating a fact?
I have lots of thoughts, and I think targeting was a good word, Bill. So, so yeah, I made a TikTok and it blew up. And a lot of people, I was just sharing my disappointment and how generalizing one age demographic is not the way that we need to be fighting this pandemic. And yes, cases are higher in young people right now, but not every young person is out partying. And he didn't even address the people that are breaking the rules. He just said everyone. And that's a huge age span. People that are on the higher age of that age span have kids going to school and daycare, and some of the younger age span are going to work and working on the front lines in food service industries. And then when he dropped those new regulations with no warning, that hurt a lot of people. So I just think that it was really, really unfair and inappropriate for him to generalize every young person and not just target the rule breakers. And if he was just trying to target rule breakers, he should have put that in his words. I'm not sure who was writing his speeches for him, but that was not the right way that you word it, as we've seen with other politicians writing the things that are not what they want to say. I'm not really sure how that big of a blunder happens. But people were really mad about it because a lot of us are following the rules. A lot of young people are following the rules. And to generalize us, when you have a 1 p.m. press conference, you're not reaching the people that are breaking the rules. So I made a tweet and I said, John Horgan, maybe you should head to TikTok because I've reached 60,000 people in 12 hours that are all my age demographic. And most of them are pissed because they're not breaking the rules. And yes, some people are, but let's also talk about the people that are breaking the rules in every other age demographic. If you walk through the mall right now, which age demographic is sitting there in clusters of 6 to 8 people having coffee all day long? It's not young people. It's the boomer generation and Gen X. And yes, my age demographic is also breaking the rules, but you can't just target one age demographic. You have to target rule breakers. And that's not what he did. And I've seen many people now hop from NDP to Green because they're so fed up with him targeting them, young people that are NDP, and they said, this is not okay. This is not how you target a population, and tell them to start following the rules, because I am following the rules. I can't do anything else to follow the rules. And now I've lost my job for 3 weeks. So maybe you should have rolled that out a bit better.
Okay, and just for clarity, I did look at the BC COVID-19 dashboard. So the case counts in BC, the 20 to 29 are at 22,500 and some, and 30 to 39 are 17,971, and 40 to 49 is 14,000, and they go down. So it is that cohort that is right now getting the most infections. So
they are, and it's a lot of them, it's because they're working in these service industries and they're last on the vaccine list. And so I'm not saying flip the vaccine list order, but this is one of the reasons, you know, they're working in the food industry and have to deal with people that don't want to wear their masks every single day. All of these freedom rallies and people that are walking in with masks and that are on the news that don't want to wear them. What generation is that? That is not young people, and young people are dealing with the brunt of it, and they're feeding us and working in schools, and young people are trying to pay their bills right now. A lot of them live with groups of people because rent is so high and these people go to frontline jobs, see hundreds of people every day, come back home together. So it's not fair. And yes, cases are highest right now in young people, which is terrible, but not all of them are from partying. So target the partiers, yes, but also focus on how we can help young people that are catching COVID working on the front lines.
In journalism circles and probably others, there's an old saying that all generalizations are false. So that probably applies here too. So Tracy, your thoughts on Mr. Horgan? Is he being ageist, or?
I don't know if ageist is the right word. I think that it's exhausting right now for everyone, and he certainly could have chosen his words a little better. But the fact is, this variant is really hammering young people. And I think that ultimately the goal is to try and protect young people, because up until this point, the generally accepted wisdom has been that unless you have a comorbidity or you are old, that you'll probably weather it just fine, even if you do get it. Well, that's not true anymore. And that message is getting lost right now. And then when you do see videos like what came out of Big White, that was all over the news this morning. I mean, that is a very homogenous age group that you're seeing in what is a spectacular image at this moment in time. So I think this cycles back again to my ongoing pleas for people to not be divisive. And, I do take some exception to Mackenzie calling out Mr. Horgan for generalizing and attacking a single age group, because I've heard lots from you, Mackenzie, about the older age groups having ruined the planet for young people. So these kinds of generalizations are never useful. Bill's right, they aren't true. And I think that we all need to stop pointing the finger at each other, point it back at ourselves, look at what we can do individually and focus on that. These numbers are terrifying. And we're in a worse shape at this moment than we were a year ago. And yet the governments are opening up, and it's not just in BC. It seems to be happening right across the country. And I'm really having issue with the messaging that's coming out. It doesn't match the science right now, and it leaves people feeling, in some cases, people feel that the economy is being prioritized over their health. Other people feel exactly the opposite way. And now we've got this war going on between grandparents and kids over who it is that's infecting whom and for what purpose. So I didn't love the TikTok for that reason. I didn't love Horgan's comments for the same reason. And I don't think it's moving any of us forward to worry about an individual age cohort, because Mackenzie's right. It isn't just young people that are going to parties, and it has been the Gen Xers and the boomers that have been doing an awful lot of that. Not necessarily rowdy parties, but indoor gatherings, thinking that they're immune or thinking that it's all a hoax. And so that's what we need to do, is get through to people that this is real. And I know we're all done with this. All of us are sick to death of this, but the virus is not done with us. And there's nothing we can do to make it done with us except follow the rules and the guidelines to the letter and get a vaccine the minute you're offered one.
Chuck, welcome Chuck Nisbett, who joined us a little bit late, probably on rural broadband somewhere and having trouble joining us. But your thoughts on this, Chuck? The circuit breaker. We're back into basic lockdown mode, and plus Horgan's comments calling out the 20 to 39-year-olds.
Let's start with Mr. Horgan. fire your speechwriter first. I mean, that was dumb. But other than that, I don't think he's ageist. I just think he wasn't thinking. You just got to use your head a little bit. You can't be inciting people like that. I think what he meant to say is, yeah, be careful. There's a lot going on right now. There's a huge jump in the 20 to 39 cohort getting this latest round of COVID. This latest variant seems to be just hitting everybody like crazy. And Mackenzie's right. These are the people that are on the front line for most of the time. You know, these are your people that are out there in your grocery stores or fast food restaurants, dealing with hundreds of people a day. So they are very, very susceptible to picking up COVID, and this new variant seems to go for them like crazy. So I think what he should have been saying was, you've got to be more careful. You've got to look after yourself a little bit. Not don't blow it. Like, come on. It was just all badly planned. He really needed to just tell people to be out there, being aware of what's going on and following the guidelines. And for the most part, I think that everybody has been following those guidelines, but you get your groups that don't want to and decide that they're not going to mask up and they're going to have their parties still. And that's when you get the flare-ups, right? Like the thing in Big White. I don't know who is thinking there, but obviously not anyone with too much on the ball. You need to keep going the way we've been going and keep fighting this thing down. Just keep knocking it down and knocking it down until it's done. This latest lockdown that we've got, will it help? I don't know. What it will do for sure is put a lot of pressure on a lot of restaurants, and it's going to be tough for a lot of people. So there's ways around that. We can still continue to utilize restaurants by doing takeout, and if you've got a favorite restaurant that you want to see survive through this thing, I suggest you do that. Otherwise, just stay home, look after each other, and try not to spread this thing around, the same as we've been doing all along. Just let's try to stay home and not do it, man. I got my motorbike out of the shed. It's sitting underneath my carport, and I'm going, I'm just not going yet. Like, come on, take it easy, just wait. And so just a little restraint, a little restraint right now. And maybe we'll come out of this thing looking pretty good, but we just got to be careful for now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I talked to a woman yesterday, probably in her 30s, and she was just kind of like, pandemic, yeah, it's going on, but I don't really pay attention to it. And I just kind of like, my jaw hit the table thing. Really?
How can you not?
Yeah, nobody should be shocked by this latest shutdown. I mean, the numbers were there for everybody to see. It certainly didn't surprise me. Opening up indoor dining shocked me more than shutting it down. Mm-hmm. That's where I go back to this mixed messaging being an issue coming from our leadership, whether it's political or medical at this point.
Yeah. Mackenzie, is the latest restrictions, do you think they're targeting, are we unfairly targeting restaurants, or maybe not unfairly, but maybe there's other things that we should be shutting down? I know there's always a comparison to the big box stores, and I've been to a couple of them in the last couple of weeks, and it's like, holy man, there's people climbing up from the rafters when you go in there, and I know we went out for supper, probably a month or two ago at a local restaurant. We left. It was so crowded, and I just kind of like, no, we're not going to sit in here. And there wasn't a lot for barriers and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, no, we're just out.
I just did it yesterday at Superstore. There's no way I was going in when I saw that parking lot.
Yeah. Mackenzie, are we go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I think that if the cases are this bad, then we should be shutting down more right now and giving people time to prepare for it. And I mean, I've been saying pretty much the whole time, if we're going to get rid of this, I think that we need to do a full lockdown like New Zealand. And we don't have the political will in the province to do that. But, you know, big box stores, there's a lot of complex conversations around that, because I saw a tweet yesterday and it was like, oh, let's give the small businesses a turn and close all the big box stores and keep all the small businesses open. And it was like, that sounds super great, but there's a lot of low income people that can't afford to shop at a small business. And, you know, the food that is more affordable at Walmart, you know, and things like that. So there's a lot of like complex, nuanced conversations around which stay open and which close. But I think that I didn't really realize that there was such a large spike coming from restaurants, that was what needed to be closed compared to the mall staying open and things like that. So I think that we really need to look at what is staying open and what is closing, and, you know, give notice when these things are going to be closing, because a 1 p.m. press conference for a midnight close is not enough time for restaurants with all of that food in their fridge and freezers, you know. So I hope that people support local businesses, but a lot of people can't afford that either, and so they have to shop at like Walmart or Superstore. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if we should be closing those big box stores, but I don't know if the mall needs to be open right now where hundreds of people are gathering if the cases are that high. I mean, lots of these things just don't make sense to me. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, the messaging, like Tracy is saying, is like, it's really hard for people to want to learn about it when the messaging is not super clear, because it just seems frustrating when you read one thing and then they were not even clear about masks. In one tweet, it said it's mandatory, and then the next tweet from Bonnie Henry said it wasn't mandatory and that it was a recommendation. And so people are really, really confused right now, and I think that we need clear leadership. So, and I feel like we're lacking that.
Tracy, your thoughts on the leadership through all this? Have we done a good, and I know I've seen the reports too, you know, so the government flip-flops, but we're in a fluid situation where we get new information all the time. So I think it's probably a good thing that we change our course from time to time and directives change as we get more information.
Yeah, I feel like leadership has been there throughout the pandemic, but that something happened in the last couple of months. And I don't know whether it was the sudden focus on elections, or I don't know what shifted in the political minds, but as far as I can see, there isn't a lot of courage being on display in the last few weeks. And that's why I think we started to reopen way too early. And I'm not just talking about BC, I'm talking about many of the provinces, all of the provinces really, except for the Maritimes, perhaps. The reopening began way before it should have begun. And you know, I'm following it really closely because I'm sitting at Exploration Place trying to decide when I can open our galleries again. What should our target date be to complete renovations and reopen? So I'm spending a lot of time deep into all of the data, and nothing in the data has made me comfortable with the idea of an opening anytime soon. And it hasn't all the way through. So if I'm looking at what I can find on publicly available data, I have to assume that our government leaders have better access to data and experts than I do. But their decisions aren't reflecting that. And it circles back to, I think, cowardice. The pressures that are coming from the business lobby want things open. Individuals want to be able to go to a religious service or have family over or go skiing or go on their motorcycle in a group. Yeah, we all want to do those things. Great. There's lots of things I want to do that I can't do and that shouldn't do right now. And that's where we need those political leaders to pony up and say, sorry, we're shutting you down, and that's how it's going to be. And if that means you don't re-elect me in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, so be it. At least you'll be alive to cast a ballot. But that's what I'm not seeing. And it's infuriating. And I see it in colleagues that are running other centers. I've seen it in businesses in the community, and I certainly see it in individuals that are unwilling to wear a mask, to not share ridiculous misinformation online. Just in general, this empathy that we need is really lacking. And I think it's because we're all short on emotional bandwidth right now. We're all exhausted. And I think we need to give ourselves permission to be exhausted and give our neighbors permission to be exhausted too. The leadership has to be tired. I get it. But now is not the time to cave to any kind of special interest or political pressure, in my view.
Chuck, do you think the political leaders are bending to pressure to reopen? We go back and look at some of the big box stores when this pandemic started. They were limiting themselves to the number of people in them, right? So there's lineups outside, and now that seems to go by the wayside, and nobody cares anymore, even though the numbers are way higher. And I think part of it's probably spring. We all Chuck wants to get out on his motorbike. Everyone wants to get out and do stuff, get out of the house. And we're all chomping at the bit to do stuff. But and I think our governments are probably reacting to that. Or do you think the governments are reacting to that prematurely?
I think the governments are feeling the same as everybody else. I think everybody's going, I need a break. I need to get out there and do something. And they want a return to normal. So they're starting to focus more on the political again, because they're trying to get back to a normal state. And now's not the time. Now's not the time at all. I think there should be a blanket law across Canada that until COVID's over, there are no elections or anything. Just stop it. Bang, done. No more. And, don't think about whether you're going to get back in. Like Tracy says, it just doesn't really matter if you're dead. So let's just think about getting through it. I don't know. I really, actually, when I think more about that, I don't know why they haven't said, yeah, we're not doing any elections for the next 5 years or whatever it takes. They just need to stop and think that what's important here is getting the people through it healthily, and that needs to happen. There's so many different signs that things are starting to come apart a little bit. I know they're opening up the seniors' homes to visitors now. And that's starting. The visitors will be allowed, I think it's 3 or 4 people, 4 times a week. And that can't be quite right, I know everyone's being vaccinated in those places, but they're still very, very susceptible, We need to keep things scaled back. When we first hit COVID, you'd go to the store and they would let a certain number of people in, as Bill was saying. I don't know why they can't do that now. I don't understand why when you go to Save-On or Superstore, the parking lot is jam-packed full of people. And I barely find place to park my truck. I'm just like, what is going on, man? There is a lot of people in there, and it just shouldn't be that way. I know we're all adept at moving through the crowds with masks on and trying to keep away from people, but it's too much people, too close. I know the whole restaurant thing, that's the whole idea behind it, is trying to keep people out away from each other. Well, there's other areas besides restaurants that need to do this. A full lockdown, I think it needs to be. I think it's time. I know it would be probably the most unpopular thing you could possibly do, but I think it's time. I think we really need to go, okay, people, stay home, don't go out, don't do anything. You got 2 months. I think that's what we need to do.
Mm-hmm. Mackenzie, you wanted to follow up on that?
Yeah, I think if we were to talk about a full lockdown, there's so many things that need to come into consideration, like a limit on products, because we don't need another toilet paper fiasco happening again with everyone buying all of it. We need to make sure that, you can't just go and buy everything in the grocery store, because you have to think about the community, not just selfish interests. And when things like this are announced, that's what tends to happen. So, you know, that needs to happen, and people need time to prepare. And, you know, I mean, I think that that needs to happen because, as Chuck was saying about, you know, the lineups at Costco and Walmart before last year, when cases were much lower, there was a lineup outside the door and you had to wait because you were only allowed a certain amount of people inside. The cases are higher than they have ever been, and we don't have any of that. It just doesn't make sense to me. And so when Tracy went right after me, she said, you know, it's important to change our views according to new science, which is, I totally agree with. But yesterday, in the same day, Bonnie Henry had shared 2 different messages about masks for children in grade 4 and up. And so it's not like they're finding new information and then sharing, you know, new restrictions. It's that their messaging is totally unclear on the day that they announce the new messaging. And the AstraZeneca vaccine, they hadn't even opened the phone bank to book for it, and they're already all full because the province didn't tell the pharmacies. So the pharmacy lines were full before the province had even told the pharmacies that they were going to be getting AstraZeneca vaccine before they announced it to the public. Like the communications team that is in charge of this is just, I don't understand why we're seeing so many mistakes like this happening, but I'm following it very, very closely, you know, with journalists on Twitter, and they're deep diving into these things, right? So these are true, like that, this is the importance of journalism. And we're finding out that all of these things are happening, and it's just, it doesn't make sense. And I think that we need to, you know, go into, I don't know if we need 2 months of lockdown, but 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I feel like could curb it pretty well. And it's not very popular, but of the 2,000 comments on my TikTok that I made yesterday talking about a lockdown, maybe 20% is against, and the rest of people agree. And that's not a very good, you know, it's a very small group of people that are my age group that are watching these. So it's not a representative of the population, but that's a pretty good, you know, 75, 80% approval rate of a lockdown in my comment section. So I feel like if they really were to roll it out, they were clear about their intentions, they were clear about an end date, you know, they were super clear on their comms, you could get a lot of those people that are against it to be on board if you had better comms.
Tracy, do you think communications has been an issue in the rollout here, and should we have done like Ontario or something like that to get appoint military person or someone like that? We have Dr. Penny Ballum, I guess, is doing it here, but to be in charge of the lockdown. But to Mackenzie's point, I agree somewhat. I got a press release probably almost 3 weeks ago now from London Drugs saying about how they're ready, you know, they're going to be doing vaccines. And it's kind of like, hold on a minute, like we're not even there yet. But they were printing it out. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think communications is one of those things that gets cut all the time. People don't take the importance of it seriously until it's done really badly and it screws up everyone's day-to-day existence. You know, communications should be invisible if you're doing it well, kind of like marketing. And unfortunately, people treat it as invisible. And so then you wind up with, that's where you've cut staff, or that's where you've cut expenditures. And then you combine that with absolute abject exhaustion, because the folks doing the planning right now are in the same boat the 4 of us are, and everybody that's sitting at home watching us, everybody's tired and things are changing moment to moment. And so I think some of the issues are people dropping the ball, making mistakes. But I also think that it's kind of moved into this realm of not really spin, but it's being shifted and trying to be managed like a political issue rather than being a public health issue. And so the way those professionals then communicate is different on either of those particular topics. And you also have a public that has now gone through however many years of cuts in the educational system, and they've gotten all the way to adulthood without understanding what the scientific method is and how it works. And so then when you do see shifts in guidance and direction in response to rapidly emerging science, people then think that that means that they didn't know what they were saying to begin with. And that's just simply not true. Everybody is learning about this as we go, and the science is evolving as we go. And I respect that the government is stepping up and saying, whoa, that was wrong. Okay, here, now this is what you need to be doing. And here's the science to back that up. But public don't hear past, whoa, that was wrong. And then the attack starts. So again, I would encourage people to be empathetic and actually do their own reading and research, because the data is out there. You can find it. There are solid, good sources where you can pull that information if you're uncertain as to why a particular health guidance has changed. Go dig into it, ask the questions. Erin Collins over at Northern Health, great resource. There's lots of folks that you can reach out to that are local, and then you can go to the Canadian COVID sites or to the Science Up First group if you're looking for really specific questions. But get those answers. Don't just read the headline and then freak out because you think that they didn't know what they were talking about a year ago. Well, none of us knew what we were talking about a year ago on this topic. It's evolved. That's science.
Chuck, do you think we should have a little more sympathy for people who are doing this stuff on the fly? Because I think that's part of it too, is that this is an ever-changing scenario, and there's bound to be mistakes. If you think back to when Trudeau first ventured out of his cottage way back last March, it was one of the first things he said, and he was probably right, is that we're going to make mistakes and things are going to happen, and but it's making policy on the fly. So should we be a little more lenient to people, or is there a nefarious hand of Bill Gates behind all this?
You had to go there.
Had to go there.
No, I think there's been a lot of mistakes along the way, and it's understandable. As Tracy says, it's all changing day to day, and everybody has to adjust everything as it happens. From the first speaking moistly comment on, we've all been just kind of adjusting as we go, right? And I really think it's a failure of communications that's been the problem here. And maybe that is because everybody's tired and trying to figure it all out, and just late night slapping together what they think they know they've got down and sending it out, and it's not quite where it should be. But communications professionals are just that. They're professionals, and we need them to step up and take the reins and say, I got this. This is what I do. I tell people what goes on. We need to learn how to distribute the news in a better way, in a more effective way, with less ambiguity. There's too many points where people can diverge in their ideas. You need to present the news, present the information, and let people know that it's the real truth, the hard fact. When you're faced with the hard fact, there's not much you can do but deal with the hard fact, right? You've got to deal with it in a way that is going to make it stop or fix it, or sit back and take it. You can't have this news coming out going, yeah, it's just this bunch of people, or it's that bunch of people, or it's everybody that is involved here. Everybody has to deal with it one time altogether, and work steady and make it go away. If communications people can put that across and show the population a clear path of how to beat this thing with the information we have up to now, because it could change, but if they can give a path, people will go for it if they see the hard facts and they see the route which could take them through it. I think that's a very, very difficult thing to do. I don't think it's easy, but we have those professionals out there. They're the same people who have spent their time showing people that vapes are wonderful things, and you know, that this party is better than that party, and you need a Pontiac and instead of a Chrysler, whatever, you know. Those are the people that need to be doing this. Those are the people who have the brains that are attuned to reaching out and touching everybody else. So I think that's what we need to do. We need to tap the professionals and say, how do we make this happen? Let's do it right. And let's get down to it right now and do the best job we can. It may be 3 weeks. It may take 6 months, but we've got to come up with a plan that's going to work in a way that is effective for everybody.
Yeah, Mackenzie, you wanted to add to that?
Well, I think
Yeah, I think just go into where the people are. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think just going to where the people are, we don't see that effort put in. And I see so many Instagram and Facebook ads. It can be a government ad in the middle of my scrolling that says, this is how many cases we have today. This is why it's important that these are the new rules. And they're very clear, because if you're not watching the 3 p.m., often not 3 p.m. press conferences, you're not seeing these things happen. If you're not following the news, if you're not on Facebook, which a lot of people in my demographic aren't, you don't know any of this. Like, my friends that aren't on Facebook don't know how high our cases counts are right now. They said that my friend said, oh, I'm going to go out for dinner tonight last night. And I was like, oh, the restaurants are closed. But how would you know if you're not following a news site on Facebook? You would have to look for it every single day. And the government can easily go to where the people are to share this information. And I don't see that effort put in. So, you know, it needs to be really clear. It needs to be in big, bold letters. Like, I'm not even in marketing, and I can reach more people my age in 12 hours than Horgan can with the 1 p.m. press conference. He's, you know, the people that are breaking the rules that he was trying to reach that day are not ever going to see that he said that, because they're not watching it at all. They're not even on Facebook. They're not paying attention. They don't care. So how do you reach those people? You go to where they are and you fill their Instagram feeds with ads because they can't get away from it. Like, that's just marketing of how you reach young people now. I don't understand how they don't know that. Like, it's basic knowledge.
Tracy, is part of the problem the government not marketing, or is it the news cycle? Is it government's fault that they're not reaching this, or is it the news organizations that they're not reaching young? Because they're certainly covering it. There's enough people at those briefings every day, which are also reposted, so you can watch them anytime on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Instagram, I believe.
Yeah, so I think there's two components to that. One is the personal responsibility, and that people they have a responsibility to inform themselves about things. And lots of people have forgotten that. They expect to be a passive consumer of information as opposed to an active researcher. And I think that that's a mistake. The 24-hour news cycle, who's going to be first to break a story, that gets out there fast. And so then the mistakes get amplified because they're carried right away. And the hacking and cutting that has happened in newsrooms has eliminated the editor. And you can see that just in the number of typos that are in all of the online pieces that are out there. You know, there's no one checking the facts, or there are very few people in comparison to the olden days. So is it the government's responsibility to reach everybody? Yeah, but the government is putting that information out there. It's there on their website. It is on the health sites. It's in Northern Health. It is available in a variety of media outlets. TikTok is one of those areas that's definitely about that one age demographic largely. And yeah, the government probably should figure it out. And even if all they do is buy ads that'll roll through there, great. Question is how many people actually pay attention to the ads that are when they're scrolling. I either hide them or avoid them. It's just in the way of what I'm actually looking to consume when I'm on a particular social media site. I think some of this around journalism, it's similar to a conversation we've had in museums for decades about whether our job is simply to provide fact and allow the viewer to form their own opinions, or whether museums should have an opinion. That seems to be evolving. In the olden days, it was that museums were just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. Nowadays, it's definitely more about being a community forum and presenting opinions and having discussion. News outlets have really shifted into opinion largely. And that's where I think that we're also running into some of those issues. So people don't trust them because they see them as having an opinion as opposed to providing basic fact. So I don't know, that was an all over the map answer to your question, Bill. I think that we all hold some of the responsibility for the difficulty that there seems to be in getting information out there. And I'll go back to my favorite hobby horse. You cut the humanities out of elementary school and you stop teaching people how to think. And that is the impact that we're seeing right now in communications and divisiveness right across the world as it relates to science coming out of this pandemic.
Yeah, I can I agree with you there, Tracy. I know I get raked over the coals regularly when they send out opinion pieces and people attack me. It's like you're doing an opinion. It's kind of like, well, that's part of what we do too. And people don't seem to differentiate a lot of time. They want to be able to speak their opinions, but they don't want the media to speak opinions, right? And
you got to have that
spoken opinions for centuries, right? So
you got to have that definite cutoff, right?
Yeah.
That op-ed page, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, everyone starts to think that it's all opinion.
Yeah, and it's tough to make that differentiation when you're online, and it just comes on your social media feed, and here it is, and that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's tough. It's very tough. Mackenzie?
I was thinking that the one thing I haven't seen throughout this this pandemic, I've seen very, very few television ads, and that just kind of blows my mind.
You watch television ads? Don't you PVR everything?
No, actually, great PVR that used to jump past them. The new one doesn't. But yeah, television ads. You gotta get some of that talent out there to do some creative ads that will really hit people when they're watching American Idol or, Hell's Kitchen, all those shows that everybody's flocking to watch, throw some stuff at them through it. I mean, I've spent enough years watching Kraft dinner commercials and Christie's makes good cookies,
Oh, Chuck, you've just not only shown us your TV taste, but your age. Next up, you're going to be singing meow, 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 meow,
Oh,
meow.
yeah,
And I know that one too.
Anyways, Mackenzie.
I do want to add that so Nana watches the the TV is on all the time, right? And she only has 10 channels. So it's very old school. And I think that a lot of people her age also have the same 10 channels, or even if they have more, they're watching TV and they don't have PVR or Netflix. And I see ads because I walk upstairs and there's Bonnie Henry ads of telling her to be safe, be kind, to be whatever the three little things are. So there is some ads, but very few people watch live TV now. I think that you'll be very surprised to see the number of people that watch TV with ads in it now. It's very, very, very small. I have not. If I did not have her upstairs, I only watch Netflix. And now with the tax that they've added, it's a lot more expensive too. So, but I think that some people in my comment section are saying that that's how ads are how they shop. And and this is mostly the people that are commenting on my Instagram live right now are my age. And they're saying if ads didn't work, they would have phased them out a long time ago. They are the main way that people my age shop now. If they see something in an ad that they like, they will add it to their Amazon cart and they will buy it in that instant or the next day. And ads work. And a lot of the time people just don't want to go through the process of clicking hide ad. So they literally would just keep scrolling and then it will pop up again. And even if you push hide ad, it pops up again. It doesn't mean that it's gone forever. So it's, ads definitely work. And I think that can be one of the big solutions to reaching young people is putting ads on the pages of social media platforms that they're using, because they see them. That's how we shop. We absorb ads like crazy. That's how we influence the choices that we make in our everyday lives. So, you know, some people like skip past them and don't read them at all. But if it's a big block letter of red numbers with the government logo at the top, that it's like a like an alarm, you know, it's like a something that is, I don't know, you see in TV movies, like when the government can take over all of the TV screens because there's like a terrible accident or 9/11 or something like that happens, and you look everywhere and that's what's on the TV screen, right? So the same thing can happen, but we just aren't seeing the political will to want to reach people in that demographic. So, I mean, I don't understand why they're not already doing this.
Well, if it's a lack of will to reach people, or if it's fear of being accused of spending money on ads in a partisan way. I mean, the accusations against the federal government and provincial governments, whoever happens to be in the seat of power, whenever they run public service ads, they're immediately accused of manna from heaven to promote their own party. And I think that also plays into decision-making around what ads are bought. It's a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be partisan though. It would be coming from, it wouldn't, there would be no partisanship on it. And if there was, that would be a huge problem, but there would be no partisanship on it. It would just be an alert that numbers are this high and this is what's closed. And I mean, if someone is saying, throwing rocks at them for being partisan because they put a warning on people's Instagram ads, how about we take a look at the people that are throwing rocks at them, because those are the people that are wrong, not the government for alerting people. And
federally, the government threw $600 million at legacy media, which is basically newspapers, established newspapers, and a few TV stations. So maybe there's some reluctance there because they've basically subsidized that part of the industry, whether they will get accused of undercutting that subsidization by now throwing money at social media giants. And then of course there's the issue here of whether Facebook should pay for news content, and that's a whole different story, I suppose.
Oh yeah, that's different. But you know, how come we don't have that reoccurring jingle that when you think about COVID, you think of that line? How come it's not there yet? How come someone hasn't come up and said, yeah, you know, I don't know, I never was good at advertising. So, but you know, COVID's bad. So, you know, you got to wear a mask or something. I don't know. There should be something that you equate with the whole pandemic, and it's not there. There's nothing there yet. But,
I think they tried to make it Bonnie's tagline of be kind, be, what does anyone remember it? Be humble, be
kind, be calm, be safe.
Remember.
Yeah.
Be kind,
yeah, I know it
calm.
didn't work. I didn't remember it.
That's it. It didn't work. You know, there are huge brands out there that they sell Chevrolets, they sell Fords, they sell everything. Somebody from that area could come forward and go, we need to do this. And
I also don't think a jingle is the solution either, though.
But it's got to get COVID forefront with people at all times.
Ads can do that. Ads, I have all the things that I want to buy in the top of my brain right now because of scrolling my Instagram and seeing ads.
But
I think we're so,
you want to buy, or what Instagram tells you should buy?
there you go.
Well, I mean, it reads my mind, so it knows what I want to buy.
yeah, exactly.
we're so far into this now, though, that realistically we need to find the science to support the solution, and that really is the vaccinations. And so it's a race right now, and we can talk about the need for communications and better funding for journalism and better funding in elementary schools all day long, but it's not going to change what happens between today and April 19th or June 30th. We need to get vaccinations into people's arms. And so I saw the announcement today that we're going to start our own vaccine production facility in Ontario. Great. We definitely need that. Also not something that's going to save us in the next 3 months, but good. That's some long range planning. Short term here, we need to get people back on the same page of, okay, we're doing a circuit breaker for 3 weeks. We're all going to stay home as much as we possibly can. And I do think Mackenzie's right in that we need to think about our vaccine rollouts targeting those frontline workers, regardless of the age group they happen to be in. Because if we want schools open, if that's our primary focus, is we want schools open and kids in classes, then we need to shut down everything else that transmission is happening within, because kids do transmit it. And this new variant is really scary stuff. The younger generations don't recognize it yet. And perhaps it's because there isn't a jingle or there isn't an ad on TikTok. But the fact of the matter is, it's really, really dangerous, and it's going to destroy people's lives, even if they don't die from COVID. And so people need to shut it down. I don't care how old you are or what color you are, shut it down right now and wait until we've all got vaccines in our arms. And then we can start to reintroduce some of the openings. And you're right, it's not going to be popular and it's not going to be easy, but that's the only way we get through this. All the rest of this is just window dressing.
You're very right, Tracy. I mean, you just remind me of something. Me and my wife had a discussion this morning. She
You were wrong, she was right. That's usually how a discussion goes.
well, there was a lot of that. But she contracted COVID January 13th. She's been off for 2.5 months. And we were just discussing what's going to happen to her down the road, because her lungs now are damaged, compromised, and she doesn't breathe well anymore. And though it's getting better than it was in the last couple of months, I don't think it's going to go back to where it normally would. So you have to start thinking about this in terms of long-term effects as well. And people have to realize that, oh yeah, you know, I may get COVID and it's gonna make me sick, but I'll get over it. I'm young and strong. I'm gonna be fine. Or, you know, I don't have any underlying problems. I'm gonna be fine. But what if you're one of those ones that is not? What if you're one of the ones that you get symptoms that last for months and months? She still can't smell or taste anything. She can't breathe properly. She has no stamina at all. And it could be months. And they're saying that they have people now that are nearly a year into it have those same symptoms. And our lungs are scarred and damaged. And, you know, you got to think about it as, if you get it, it could change your life. And it may not be a little change. It could be a big change. So yeah, we've got to do something about this and stop more people from getting to that point, because it's not pleasant. It really, really isn't.
You're here. I completely agree with you, Chuck.
Yeah, we're getting there, but I don't know. It's going to take a while yet, and we've got to really come down on this thing and just stop it in its tracks now.
Yeah, right on. So we're coming up on an hour now, so we can just go around the horn again. And anything anybody wants to add to this discussion, or do a plug for somebody or something? Tracy, let's start with you.
Well, I have a request to Mackenzie. You do have 60,000 people that have paid attention to your TikTok, and you do have their ear. You have the opportunity to reach that age group that we're all talking about here and not knowing how to reach. So reach them with the real science, reach them with those figures that we've talked about and the real dangers they're facing. And you couldn't have a higher calling than to reach young people right now. And if you've got their attention, use it for good. That's my request to you. And for everybody else, wear your mask, stay home, and we'll get through this together.
Mackenzie, yeah, response to use your powers for good.
I'm working on it, okay? Sometimes I'll make a video and it flops because the algorithm is so strange. So I encourage other young people that are really active on the app as well to make as many videos as possible on the numbers and, when vaccines can come out, because I'm not really seeing that instruction from the government in a very clear, easy to understand way that reaches young people. So it's up to young people, I guess, to reach our colleagues and friends. So yeah, I will definitely make some more videos on it. It takes a lot of time, so I will work on it. I wanted to mention that today is Trans Day of Visibility, and so all over social media, there's a lot of education about trans and non-binary people, and I encourage people to check that out to learn a little bit more if you aren't familiar. And shop local, order takeout.
Chuck?
Okay, well, tomorrow's April 1. This is not an April Fool's joke, okay? We're telling the truth. This is what it's all about. And I'm going to do my best to stay back and try not to spread anything. Eventually, I will put my helmet on, get on my bike, and social distance. And, but
At the speed limit, of course.
of course, definitely. They only make bikes that go to the speed limit. Didn't you know that? And yeah, put your sign, go check out Science Up First. Make sure that people are getting the real story, the real facts, right? Spread them. Spread the facts like the disease. Come on. We all know how to spread the virus. We can spread some facts too.
There you go, Chuck. You just came up with a marketing line and a good one.
There you go.
See?
We need to hire Terry O'Reilly to handle this for us.
That's it. That's the man we need. Terry O'Reilly right there.
Right on. And to thank Tracy Calogheros, Mackenzie Kerr, and Chuck Nisbett for joining us again, and for everyone who was watching online. Apologies to Dorothy Friesen. We didn't get to the parkade thing. She was hoping we were going to talk, and we kind of talked about it, but COVID took over. So maybe another time we will talk about the downtown parkade. And for everyone else that's watching, yes, thanks for watching, and wear your masks and be socially distanced and all that fun stuff. And we will talk to you next week.